with a Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to talk about what it's like to be a married couple that has a business and children and life and just share our story with people.
Yeah, so Craig, how is life?
Life is good. You know, we are in the middle of flag football playoffs right now. This is our first year doing flag football, and it's been fun.
It's been different than I had expected.
Yeah, I think that I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think it was going to be so competitive or we'd be so much into the games. It's a little more competitive than I thought, but I think it's fun for our son to play it.
Yeah, and I think it's fun that you're not coaching it.
I also think it's fun. What I'm doing every week is I bring my camera. So I like I think we've talked about this a million times on the show. I have a million hobbies. I'm like the king of hobbies.
Very hobby-oriented.
I'm very hobby-oriented.
I'm a hobby supporter.
You are a hobby supporter.
As opposed to having hobbies.
So one of my hobbies is photography, and I have a nice camera set up. And so I take my camera every week, and I do pictures, and then I send them out to the teams. And I'm having a really good time doing that. This is one of the first times that our son has played a sport that I haven't coached, that I've actually just been a spectator and enjoyed. And one of the things I've been enjoying is taking a lot of pictures of the games every week.
Well, that's good. I've enjoyed not talking to people as much, but I still am talking to people a lot.
Yeah, right. Allison, another thing with photography is that you should have great pictures for your website. And we're talking to a couple this week that own a company that does website development and marketing and logo and branding. Matt and Shea from 3Thought. It was a really great interview.
It was. And what's interesting is we've known Matt and Shea since before they were a couple.
Yeah. So take a few minutes here and listen to Matt and Shea from 3Thought Creative talk about being a married couple that owns and operates a business together. Hey everybody, we're happy to have Matt and Shea from 3Thought Creative here with us this week. Guys, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
So let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met as a couple.
As a couple, our story is sort of long and unusual. Well, not unusual, but convoluted. We knew each other in high school.
Before high school.
But we didn't talk to each other, ever.
Okay.
And I went off to college. He went off to college. And I was coming back to Massachusetts after living and working in upstate New York for a while. And my mother lived in Plymouth and Matt worked in Plymouth. And I was looking for a job. And my mother was at a bar and she was complaining that she needed to find a job for her daughter. And a person that Matt worked with, a photographer, Ed Newt, friend of ours, overheard the conversation and said, here, have her call Matt. He works for a graphic design company. So I did. And Matt calls back and goes, is this Shea Baker of the Marshfield High School Shea Bakers? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, good. So he got me the job. And so we worked together for 4 years at another agency. And, 2009 kind of happened and we're like, so we decided to break off and start our own company. Not a couple, just friends. And we started our own business. And a little while into that, Matt decided he liked me. So that's how we eventually got together. So business first, couple later.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's one of those things where you guys were business partners first, worked on growing and developing the business. How hard was it from that point of then transitioning and being like, okay, well, now we're a couple that own a business together?
I don't know. I think things have always worked relatively well. I mean, when we worked together, we've always worked well together. And I think that was part of having come out of, I guess, both of us coming out of relationships that didn't always work so well. And we literally worked together well. I thought for sure, like, hey, well, this looks like something that could be potentially good. Like we always, we can fight like brothers and sisters when we disagree on things. But at the end of the day, we always kind of come to the same spot and it's usually for the best. What do you think?
I think that was what kind of worked about it is when you have a work relationship, you know how to have disagreements because you have to have those discussions. So we know how to fight. Like you can fight about what you need to fight about, but it's not a reflection of your personal relationship or your friendship. And that I think has been a strength in our marriage that we've been able to do that, and that we can compartmentalize the work stuff from the personal stuff.
Yeah, we don't
That's
fight that
something that
often.
you and I have talked about in the past because we worked together before we got together as a
Right.
couple too.
Yeah, same, very similar situation, and I think it's interesting because it also informs how you communicate with each other, not just from the business side of it, but especially in the marriage side of it. Like you are able to think about it more and be a little bit more have more intent in your conversations with each other because you understand how to communicate from a business level.
Yeah. So do you guys, who of the two of you, do you think one of you is more the visionary and one of you is more the implementer? Or do you guys both feel like you both come to the table doing both things?
Oh, this was a better question for us maybe 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I think it's just kind of hold on by the seat of your pants at this point. Maybe that's the crazy thing about having like children and the business and just being busy is, I think we have some visions of where things are going, and the greatest visions they kind of life gets in the way of where those things go. I'd love to know your thoughts though.
I think we trade off a little bit. I definitely think I have a more like practical, oh my God, how are we going to do this kind of thing? And Matt's more like, we're going to figure it out. It's just going to happen. So maybe he's a little bit more visionary and I'm a little more brass tacks, but we trade off. Like whatever the need is, like sometimes one person gets overwhelmed with something and the other person sees that and steps up. So we've sort of ebbed and flow as we've gone through changes.
That's true.
How do you guys balance that sort of, work-life balance when you're busy, your company's growing, you have young kids, you have all of this stuff that's going on. How do you guys, is there something that you guys do to kind of break it up and balance the day-to-day busyness and the family part of it?
Make it work. I think we trade off. I think we've always been that we complement each other. Like each of us can do the other person's job, the role, whether it be domestically or whether it's at work. Of course we have strengths and preferences, but you go through times like obviously when I was pregnant and we had babies, like I had to be very family focused because I physically had to do it. So Matt had to step up more in the business area of stuff. And then, more recently, when COVID hit and everything went into lockdown, we had a kindergartner and had to do kindergarten virtually. And that was not my strength. And Matt's like, okay, so Matt was like a full-time kindergarten teacher during the business day. And I had to make all the work stuff work. So yeah, we trade off. It's like you look at the moment and who's best suited to deal with the most thing on fire. You assign that and the rest fills in.
We're really good at triage.
Yes, I understand that too.
Yeah, I think that's part of having a business and kids and employees and everything that goes along with it.
What do you guys think has been the biggest challenge working and living together over the last 15 years or so?
I don't know. I want to say like, oh, it's been so easy. Has it been challenging? I feel like it's been, it's been better than kind of expected. I mean, I personally enjoy working for ourselves. I think that's been, I look at what other people do and I look at challenges that other folks have, and it feels like, oh, we got away with this really easy. Like we just get to, sit on our computers and push buttons all day and, manage things. It's not like we're, doing what you guys are doing and, putting roofs up or, we're out in the rain all day or doing something really challenging. So, I mean, I think dealing with customers and expectations has been certainly, that's always challenging and that can be time consuming and stressful, but overall, I don't. Has there been a challenge? You're going to have more challenge, I think.
I think obviously COVID with every business was a challenge. And when you were balancing a family and dealing with that, that's interesting. And we're in other people's businesses. So we're helping them kind of navigate all those things as well. I think we're really fortunate in that, we had a job that could be done 100% remote without client contact, and that we had the flexibility, like, we need a full-time kindergarten teacher. I'm the boss. Matt, you're the full-time kindergarten teacher. And we could do that. But it's exhausting. It certainly was just very, very tiring.
Yeah, I think just as any small business owner will tell you, when you have to wear, I always say, I want to wear one hat, and instead we're wearing 12, and those 12 can change on any given day, just like anyone who's a small business owner. And I think that has probably been the most challenging part, at least for me personally, is just figuring out, like, I come into work and now we triage and figure out, well, which one of my 12 hats are we wearing today, and then staying on top of the business where it changes so frequently, especially on the web end. Maybe that's the most challenging thing, I think, on my side, is just keeping up with changes to different aspects. Not only are we wearing all these hats, but then each one is changing so rapidly. As I think back to 14 years ago when, like, these new phones, these mobile phones have been out, these smartphones have been out for a couple of years, and now we're going to change the way that websites get made because everything needs to look good. And that's on a phone. Yeah. And it's evolved so much. Now we want apps and social media and this and that, and everything is changing and people's expectations are changing. So while it is not difficult from a, hey, I sit behind a computer and push buttons all day standpoint, it is difficult keeping up with all the different demands and different technologies, I think.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
And I think especially for your business, when we built our last website 15 years ago and what we're going through now with you guys, it's a completely different process. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things, like, thinking about, and 3Thought, you guys do not just websites, you guys do rebranding, you do, help with, marketing in general. Talk to me a little bit about, like, in today's world and as a business owner, when things are changing so fast, what should a business owner be looking at to, for their brand or for their marketing or for their website? What should they be considering with everything that comes at you so fast with, like you said, now everybody looks at everything on the phone, and there's social media, different social media platforms are most popular one this week. What should a business owner be concerned about?
I have a quick answer. I bet Shay's got a really long one, but I'm always concerned with, like, what's going to make the biggest impact, and, like, what can you handle doing yourself, as in, like, I'm the business owner, what can I commit to do? If you're going to be the one who's doing it, what can you literally commit to doing that's going to give you the best impact for your time spent? And sure, if you had a team of people doing things, it's going to be, you can commit to more. And if you had the money to throw, but yeah, I think having realistic goals would be the first and foremost, and realistic expectations for, I invest this much time, I should be getting X in return.
And I think it's also the ability to be flexible. Like, you want to arm yourself with tools that will allow you to respond to a number of different situations. As you said, one week it's this platform and one week it's that platform. It's not a set it and forget it kind of world. Like, you don't do, like, the one thing and it stays that way. People make a big investment in their website, which they should, but they also have to, like, you don't necessarily get to keep that website for 15 years. It's not like building a brick and mortar building.
Yeah.
So being able to respond to that, and, we like to be able to give people tools. Like, there are days, like, you're going to have an opportunity, like, oh, if I can just go beyond, put an ad in this place, or if I go to this event, and you should have materials that allow you to respond to that you can do that without having to go through a giant process with a designer every time. So investing in those quality tools to be flexible and responsive.
Yeah, because everything changes.
Yeah, it does. And talk to us a little bit about, like, so what are, when you work with a client at 3Thought, like, what are your goals to working with them? Like, what are you trying to get out of them in order to help them, grow their position on, either the internet or media, social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. And everyone's going to be a little bit different. So it's hard to come up with that, like, cloud answer that fits everyone. But it's really listening to what people come to us typically because they have a pain or a problem, right? And it's listening to not what they're giving you often for like, well, here's the solution I want to see, but listening to what their pain is and trying to figure out like, what are they going to need to solve that? Because what they tell us they need it's not always the direct answer to where they want to be. So it's listening and just hearing like, hey, here's the goal. And that's a question we often will ask people when we start working with them is like, ultimately, like, what does a successful project look like for you? And how we get to that success doesn't always align with what they thought their needs were. So figuring out where they need to be is often the first step. And kind of backing out. All right, well, to get to that, you need to do A, B, and C. And well, we only have the budget for A and B. We're like, all right, cool. Well, we'll do C next year. And just figuring out what's going to work for folks and really listening to what their needs are, I think has been a big strength of ours and how we help folks the best we can.
Yeah, and I think for like, and us going through the process with you guys, I mean, we said early on, like, it was very daunting for us. Just like, and I think for a lot of business owners that aren't technologically savvy or don't have a lot of that background, you look at your website and you need to do something, or you look at your social media and your brand and you go, I need to do something about it, but I just don't know where to start. And I think that finding a company like yours and reaching out is what is sort of helped us at least navigate it a little bit better.
What do you guys think your biggest strengths are as a couple, both personally and professionally?
Shea is the brains of the operation. So we can always count on her to think about the questions and answer in a very, very thoughtful, smart way. I am more reactionary and more of, I guess, like, well, let's make a joke and let's, have everyone be happy and kind of the, I don't know, what do you want to call my role? Kind of like play nice with everyone. I think those are some strengths that we have.
I think one of the reasons that Matt and I work, and one of the things and that translates to the business is my relationship, he's always concerned with the why. And that's really important to me because there's always a reason that you're doing something or you want something. And, people usually jump to, they make assumptions, and he spends the time to really like listen to what's going on underneath, which I need because it takes me a while to get there. And he's always like, you always have a reason. I may think it's crazy, but there's a reason. And so we translate that into the business as well. We're asking, and we did it with you guys, tell me what the problem is. Don't tell me what you think the solution is. Let's talk about what's going on underneath. And that big question of what's the why. Because once you understand the why, the how you make it better makes so much more sense. If you skip that step, then you end up with things that don't necessarily answer the real problem.
Well, and like we always say this on every show. It's a good relationship, both, from a marriage standpoint and from a business standpoint, is being able to balance each other out, and being able to do that, read the room, help the other person, answer the question, or give them time to come up with the answer. All of those things are what makes a good couple that can work well together in a business.
Yeah, because you're also definitely the like, we'll chat while I think and develop an answer type person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my first answer is a real high D aggressive answer, but then I've like got to work myself through it, like no matter what it is. What are you guys hoping your kids are learning from watching you work together?
I hope that they learn the value of working for yourself and creating something, and not just accepting, the fact that like, oh, I'll just go out and get a job. Like, you can go and you can build something, and you have so many opportunities. And, by the time they're older, you think about like the opportunities to learn and to just do things for yourself and solve problems. I hope they're learning that aspect when they see us working.
And communication skills, again, how to have those fights that aren't personal, how to have a disagreement about things, how to ask questions, how to problem solve.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about how people can find you guys, how people can find 3Thought.
All right. So the self-promo part, you can find us on the internet. Visit our website. Yes, we of course we have a website. 3thoughtcreative.com. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only place that we're active. It's really funny. You think about companies that do what we do, you think they'd be active anywhere, but I don't think we have the mental bandwidth to be active on, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of those things. So while we do have those profiles and they're updated occasionally, the website's the best place to find us and learn about our processes, how we think. And of course, you can always call us too. The phone number is on the website, and for everyone, we'll sit down and chat with you and have conversations and kind of figure out what people's needs are. So that's where you find us, the website, 3thoughtcreative.com.
And you guys do everything from, we talked about web design and graphic design and rebranding, logos, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, graphic design is a pretty broad term. So we always say if you can apply a visual to it, we can probably help you with it. We've used the term visual communications before. And yeah, we've done everything from ads and brochures and typical stuff to an ice cream truck to business lobbies and interiors, signage. So having a well-rounded designer on your team is a really valuable asset to help in all of these applications.
And designers that also understand like development and marketing. I think that's the part that makes us a bit of a unicorn, is we're not just stuck in one. We get form and function here. And that's really hard to find with some folks, because you typically get artists that just want to do arty things, and you get coders that just want to do codey things, and marketers who just want to do marketing things. And we do a little bit at all of those. And it sounds like we'd be deluding ourselves, but I do feel like we're pretty good at kind of understanding all of those pieces and how they play together. Almost like a general contractor that has to understand how all the pieces come together when you're building a house. You have to know a little bit of all of it to be successful. And
I like the reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thanks so much for being on the show this week. We really appreciate you taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
That was such a great interview. They're so interesting to talk to. And what I really love, Craig, is that, again, another couple where we're seeing the same themes, the communication, the balance, how they don't have the same personality traits. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's funny, the more we talk to couples that own businesses that are approximately in our same age range and have kids that are like our age, our kids' age, it's interesting to hear how similar our battles are, and how much alike we all tend to be, not just as parents and business owners, but as people in general. And one of the things that Shea said when we asked her about, what do you hope your kids get from this? I really love this, and I never thought about this before when we talk about it for our kids, but she said communication and the communication skills and learning to talk to each other and to see how they, as mom and dad, run a business and talk to each other and make decisions, and hopefully that the kids see that and learn those communication skills. And I thought that was great, because that's something that, and I think a lot of like what Matt said. Matt's like, I want them to see the hard work and all the work that we've done to build what we've built. And that's what I think about all the time for our boys. But I never thought about it's really important how you and I communicate to each other as a married couple and as business owners. And I hope our kids are learning that too.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've been working with our kids on is when they ask questions about, well, why this, why that? And we're literally talking about that leadership skill. Something came up at school and a decision was made, but there was no explanation as to why. And so I reached out to the principal and asked him I was like, you made a decision, which was fine, but the kids want to know the why. And so we've talked about when you do something, you need to include the why and the because otherwise people fill it in with their own stories. And so because we're learning that ourselves running a business and working together. I'm trying to also push that down to the kids because it's not something they teach in school.
Well, and I liked also too, it's funny you say the why, because they also talked about how they work well together. And it goes back to that whole yin and yang effect that you and I've always talked about as a husband and wife team. And Matt and Shea talked about, Matt said Shay's the brains of the business. She's the smart one. And I feel that way about you a lot. Like, you're the brains. And Shea said, well, Matt's really good at getting the why from people when helping them with their marketing and their web development or their branding. And that's kind of what I think I'm good at, right?
Well, I think there are a lot of similarities in our personality types. I might not be the best person to go back to someone when there's an issue or a problem, just because of my demeanor and my personality. But you are really good about that. Like, I know what we want, but you're often good about finding polite ways to get us there.
Yeah, it's always fun. And it makes me feel good as a parent and as a husband and as a business owner that there are other people that are experiencing the same things that we're experiencing, that we're not alone out there. And there are days that I think as a husband and wife team that we sometimes feel like we're alone. But we're not. So it was really great talking to them and in talking to them and for what they do, helping people with branding and marketing and building that website. I really thought of a great book that you should check out, Donald Miller's Story Brand. We've talked about it a few seasons ago on the show, and we went through that process of Story Brand. And it's really great, Allison, if you're at a point where you're like, I got to figure out what my company is about.
Right. We listened to the book on Audible, and then we actually did the Story Brand course that Donald Miller has. And I think that really has helped us hone our message and our voice, especially when we're going and trying to communicate it to other people.
Yeah. And as we go through the process now of redesigning and redeveloping our website and our brand a little bit, it's been very helpful for us to have had that experience going through that process. And you should check that book out. Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand or Story Brand is on Audible, and you can get a free 30 days of Audible on us. All you have to do is go to our link, audibletrial.com/bizmarried. That's audibletrial.com/bizmarried. You get a free 30 days of Audible and check out Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yeah, it really helped us. And when you're ready to build your website, give 3Thought Creative a call.
And also, you can find us online. Look for us online at Biz Married on Instagram and Twitter. You can search for us on Facebook, search Married with a Business. Check out our website too, marriedwithabusiness.net. It's got resources, it's got everything. You can listen to old episodes there. You can find all the information, marriedwithabusiness.net. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.